Hi there, Martin here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're all well. In this episode of the tools I use and why I use them, we're going to be looking at chucks, jaws and faceplates that I use here in the workshop. Now, your choice of chuck will largely be determined by the size of lathe, the size of the pieces you're going to be turning, and also to a greater or lesser degree your budget. Now, I generally stick with two different types of chuck system. The first one is the Supernova Chuck from Nova. It is an absolutely superb chuck, and this is the one that I generally use for most of my turning here. That is up to about 12 to 13 inches, something like that. The standard jaws have remained on here ever since I got it, mainly because in order to change the jaws, unlike the other chuck system, which I'll show you in a minute, you've got to remove each individual jaw and then replace it with the next jaw that you want to use. So these jaws have been on ever since I got the chuck. It's very much a workhorse and I just absolutely love it. The small or the standard set of jaws, the 50mm jaws, I find to be absolutely perfect for most things that I turn, up to about 14 inches in diameter. On another Supernova chuck, I've got their large jaws, which these are dovetail actually, which I think are 100mm, which I do platters on, and stuff up to sort of 16-20 inches plus wide. And then on the last Supernova chuck, I've got a set of the Supernova cold jaws or button jaws. It's the standard set of 12-inch, but with the 1-inch extensions, which gives it 14 inches. I use these quite regularly. And I either use these or the vacuum chuck, but the vacuum chuck you'll see in a different video. And these are really good. They're really handy. The aluminium face here, when I'm reverse mounting a piece onto these to take off a tenon, I'll always put some kitchen towel underneath just to protect the rim of the piece from the aluminium jaws. The other jaw system that I use is the Evolution system from Axminster, and in particular the SK114 chuck with the H gripper jaws on. I really love gripper jaws. Some people love them, other people don't, but my preference is gripper jaws over dovetail. These are the H gripper jaws, so I just need a square tenon because they've got serrated parts on the inside and the outside of the jaws, and I just prefer it for some reason. Utterly bomb proof, and to change the jaws you can just undo it and the jaw and the slider come out and you can just replace it nice and quickly. And on this one I've got an 80mm set of O'Donnell jaws, which I use for finials and stuff. There is a smaller set which I'll show you in a second, but my general go-to set of jaws on this chuck is the O'Donnell set, or maybe a set of C jaws which are sort of 65-70mm I think. So I've got three Supernova chucks, each doing something different, and two SK114s. Perhaps it's a slight overkill, perhaps one of each would be enough, but you know, as you gain experience you tend to collect kit. Now, as for faceplates, I love using chuck mounted faceplates, and I'll look at those in a second, but this faceplate, which is the one that came with my Vicmark lathe, is incredibly sturdy, really quite heavy, and it's got plenty of decent size screw holes for you to mount your piece to, and this is a spindle mounted chuck too. I do prefer using a chuck mounted faceplate, mainly because I can just leave a chuck on the lathe, and this one is the Nova, or the large Nova faceplate, which fits over the top of those jaws. about 100mm, loads of screw holes, a very, very, very secure fit, and I feel very confident turning using this chuck and faceplate combo. For smaller stuff, if I'm using a faceplate, I will use this little fella. Now I think this is the Robert Sorby one rather than the Nova one, but it does fit very snugly over the, or fits perfectly rather, onto the standard set of 50mm jaws on the Supernova Chuck, really nicely. Only 4 screw holes, so you do need to be careful when mounting something that it's not too big. If I am doing something a little bit bigger than this, but smaller than to fit on here or on here, I'll use this faceplate ring from Axminster, and this one fits over the top of the C jaws, which are kind of the standard Axminster jaws for the SK114, and with its 6 holes you are guaranteed of a really good fixing of the piece to the faceplate and then the faceplate onto the chuck. Just before we look at the jaws I use on the Axminster system, I ought to mention the fantastic worm screw that comes with the Supernova Chuck. It gives an incredibly firm hold on pieces up to about 12, 13, 14 inches at a push, and it just sits directly inside the chuck jaws like that, and it does give an excellent hold. Yeah, a lot of the chucks out there do come with worm screws, or you can get them, and something like this is well worth the money. So onto the jaws that I use. Now we've already seen with the Nova chucks I leave the jaws on there permanently, but with the Axminster Evolution SK114 chucks I do actually have an array of different jaws that I use to interchange fairly quickly. Let's start with these ones. These are essentially, they're soft jaws. They're made from nylon, and you turn them down to a specific diameter or a specific shape that you need in order to hold the piece. These ones haven't been used yet, but these ones here have been turned down to a shape that I used to turn my pepper mills. Very, very handy to be able to turn exactly what you need. Next up, we've got the C jaws. Now these are kind of the standard jaws, fairly short dovetail there, meaning you don't need an incredibly deep tenon or recess in order to hold something nice and firmly to the chuck. My personal preference, as we've already seen, is the H gripper jaws or the 2-inch dovetail jaws on the Supernova for smaller pieces. Next up here we've got the massive, I think these are the Piranha Jaws. These have been hardly used, but they will just hold virtually anything with a really large, heavy dimensions. I have turned, I think it was a 2 foot by 1 foot piece on these jaws, absolutely solid as a rock. These are Piranha Jaws, big serrations on the inside for a nice long square tenon or recess when it comes to turning hollow forms and items similarly to that. Now all of these jaws are on new jaw carriages, which make just the swapping in and out of the jaws nice and quick and simple. Now on this chuck you saw the large O'Donnell jaws. These are the smaller set. I bought these to turn finials and stuff, but I actually found that with the way I was turning finials, the slightly larger O'Donnell jaws were better. So I use those occasionally. The G-size gripper jaws are superb for medium-sized pieces in between the set I leave mostly on the chuck and also the really big ones up there. These are serrated on the inside, so they've got a grip for a tenon, and then they've got a dovetail on the outside. very, very strong. Then finally we have the BF gripper jaws. Now these are really quite small. These are much more suited to pins. You could also use them for finials, but working this close to the jaw, there is always a danger that you might catch your knuckles, which is where the O'Donnell jaws are really good at keeping your knuckles and stuff away from the chuck when you're turning small stuff fairly close to it. So with the two chuck systems that I use and the array of jaws that I have up here, I'm pretty certain that I've got a chucking method suitable for pretty much anything that I want to turn. Now when you are buying your own chuck system, make sure you are buying a chuck that is appropriate for the size of the lathe you're using and also the size of the pieces you are turning. And of course it goes without saying, or it should go without saying, that you make sure that you turn the tenon or the recess to the correct size for the jaws that you have on your chuck. Many thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. Down here are a few videos I think you may find of interest, and if you click just down here you'll be able to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so just yet. But that's it for now. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.